Recorded live in front of a studio audience of 3 dogs, it's JP's in the Clinch.
Welcome back to another episode of JP's in the Clinch. I'm your host, Double Jab JP, and I was sitting around the other day thinking about some content to provide for the channel. I know June 10th is going to be the big day where we have the big recap show. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch the fights on June 9th. I have prior engagement, but I will watch them on June 10th and probably do somewhat of a live recap show, but it won't be the complete fights. More like highlights, and then I'll give my opinion on what I thought of them. We'll also have other news around boxing, rankings updates, just your general boxing info. This is going to be your one-stop shop for boxing. But in the meantime, I was kind of just sitting there thinking about fighters that are coming up that I'm excited about that I feel like aren't as popular as they should be. Some of these guys aren't popular because they're just getting started, and other ones, are just starting to get up those contender rankings. A couple of them have even won belts already. But I feel like these are the guys that if I was getting someone into the sport that was brand new, I feel like these are the fighters that they should watch out for. And you're not going to see a Triple G or a Lomachenko on this list because they're already established. People are already keeping an eye on them. So these are the guys. If you haven't checked them out, pull them up on YouTube and enjoy. So first we're going to start off with Ryan Garcia. Garcia, who's nicknamed The Flash, fights at 130 pounds, which is super featherweight. And this kid is only 19 years old. He's got a baby face. He's promoted by Oscar De La Hoya, which is fitting because Oscar used to have a baby face also. Really, to me, he is the second coming of the Golden Boy. He doesn't have the gold medal, but he does have the female following. But unlike Oscar, who his following was like 20-year-old and 30-year-olds, this guy has the teenage girls after him just because those babyface good looks, and he's a big Instagram star, which I think is pretty smart. You want to market yourself that way if you're a fighter nowadays. I believe you want to get on social media and get a big following. The older fight fans might not like it, but that's the way media is going today. So far in 2018, he's fought some pretty decent opponents for a guy that's only had 15 fights. In March of this year, he fought Fernando Vargas, not to be confused with the former junior middleweight champion, Fernando Vargas. This Fernando Vargas came in at 32 wins, 13 losses, and 3 draws, and Garcia took him out in 1 round, which this was supposed to be a good little test for Garcia. This is supposed to be a step up in competition. So don't let that baby face fool you. This kid has power. He is 15-0 now with 13 knockouts. His last opponent was Jason Velez. Jason Velez is best known for defeating former world champion Juan Manuel Lopez. So this guy was no slouch. He was supposed to be able to take Garcia to the limit, but Garcia dominated the fight, winning by a unanimous 10-round decisions of scores on all 3 judges' scorecards of 99-91. Another thing to mention about Garcia is the kid's 5'10", which is pretty damn tall for a super featherweight. He's normally featured on the Golden Boy cards on ESPN, so this kid ain't hard to find. And when he does fight on ESPN, you should definitely check him out. Another fighter that's been featured on ESPN quite a bit lately is Grand Prairie, Texas' own Virgil Ortiz. This kid fights at the 140-pound division, or he's also pretty tall for his division, coming in at 5'9". And so far in his pro career, he's had 9 wins and 9 fights, all of them by knockout. He fought on February 22nd against Jesus Alvarez Rodriguez, a guy that came into that fight at 15-3. Ortiz dispatched him in 3 rounds. Next up, he'll face Juan Carlos Salgado. This is by far Ortiz's biggest test, as Salgado is a former WBA super featherweight champion. He also has a first-round technical knockout win over former Ring Magazine lightweight champion Jorge Linares, who just lost his title to Vasyl Lomachenko last month. These two will meet up June 23rd on ESPN, so don't miss it. We're going to keep it in the 140-pound division for our next 2 fighters. The first one I'm going to talk about is the interim WBC junior welterweight champion, Regis Prograis. Yes, his name looks like it's pronounced Prograis. It is not. It is Regis Rougarou Prograis. He comes out with this crazy getup. It's some swamp monster lore from New Orleans. It's pretty cool, and it must be effective because he's knocked out 18 of his 21 opponents. He has yet to lose. his two biggest wins was against touted amateur Joel Diaz Jr., who came into that bout 23-0, and Pro Gray ended his undefeated streak in just 2 rounds. The next opponent was former unified world champion Julius Ndongo, whose only loss came at the hands of top 3 pound-for-pound fighter Terrence Crawford in a bid to unify all 4 belts at the junior welterweight division. This is thought to be Pro Gray's biggest test, but he dispatched Ndongo in the second round to become the interim WBC champion. Pro Gray's career is looking pretty promising, as his 2 biggest options right now is either to fight WBC Junior Welterweight Champion Jose Ramirez or enter the World Boxing Super Series later on this year. If he does so, he may run into the next man on the list, Josh Taylor. Josh the Tartan Tornado Taylor comes at you from Scotland in the United Kingdom. He's a former Commonwealth gold medalist, and so far in his pro career he has 12 victories with no losses, 11 of them coming by way of knockout. His biggest victory to date is over fellow touted UK fighter O'Hara Davis, who came into that bout 15-0. Taylor got a technical knockout win in the 7th round over Davis. So far in 2018, he's fought Winston Campos, who came into that bout with a 33-5 record, and it only took Taylor 3 rounds to take care of Campos. Later on this year, he'll face his biggest test to date, and that's former WBC champion Victor Postol. Postol comes into that bout with a record of 29-1. His only loss, also, just like Ndongo before him, was to Terrence Crawford. Now let's travel to another part of the UK and talk about rising prospect Michael Conlan. Michael Conlan got popular in the 2016 Olympics after he lost a controversial decision and he decided to flip off the judges. Being Irish-born, maybe he can be Conor McGregor's predecessor, but the boxing version. So far as a pro, he's got 7 wins, no losses. 5 of those wins come by knockout. So far in 2018, he stopped David Berna in 2 rounds and won a unanimous decision after 8 rounds over Iban Larinaga. This kid was already a headliner in Madison Square Garden this year. His next fight will be June 30th against Adilson dos Santos, a guy that comes in the bout with a 19-4 record. Santos is best known for losing by a 2nd round knockout to former WBO junior featherweight champion Jesse Magdaleno. This is still going to be a good test for Conlan, so it'll be interesting to see how it works out for him. Keeping it in the featherweight division, another kid to look out for is Secure Stevenson. Stevenson was a silver medalist in the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. Now he holds a 6-0 record, 3 of them coming by way of knockout. So far in 2018, he's faced Juan Tapia, who had an 8-1 record, and Roxburgh Patrick Riley came in 12-0, and Stevenson dispatched him in 2 rounds. On June 9th, he'll face Elio Mesquita, who comes into that bout with a 16-1 record. Stevenson and Conlan aren't the only 2 guys you need to look out for in this loaded featherweight division. I'm going to apologize in advance if I butcher your name. Tugsut Nyambiar, better known as King Tug. King Tug is another former Olympian who won a silver medal in the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Now he comes to us as a pro with a 10-0 record, 9 by knockouts. So far in 2018, he's only had 1 fight, and that was this last May against Oscar Escondón. Oscar came into that bout with a 25-3 record. He was also an interim WBA champion and fought the likes of Moses Flores and Gary Russell Jr., so he was no slouch. King Tut dispatched Escondón in 3 rounds. Now we're going to move up to the big boys, the heavyweights. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of hype around heavyweights in the States right now, but there are 2 UK heavyweights that could be superstars down the road that you need to keep an eye on. First, there's Daniel Dubois. His professional record is 7 wins, all by knockout. This hard-hitting heavyweight had 75 amateur bouts, only losing 6. And already in his pro career, he's won the WBC Youth World Heavyweight title and the British Boxing Board of Control Southern Area Heavyweight title. So far in 2018, he had a fight in February where he got a stoppage win over DL Jones in 3 rounds. And next up, he'll be fighting the trash-talking Tom Little, who comes into that bout with a 10-5 record. That bout will be June 23rd. The guy that's right on Dubois' tail as another heavyweight prospect from the UK is Joe Joyce. Now don't let this guy's record fool you. He's got a 4-0 record right now, all 4 by knockout. He also competed in the World Series of Boxing, which is like a semi-pro boxing team where the teams are awarded points kind of like amateur wrestling. So far in his pro career, his biggest win came just last month, May 5th, against Linroy Thomas, who came into that bout with a 22-4-1 record. It only took 2 rounds for Joe Joyce to dispatch him. That's a huge win for Joe Joyce. He also won the Commonwealth British Empire heavyweight title, setting the record for the quickest time it's taken a heavyweight to win that title, since he did it in only 4 bouts. Keeping it in the UK, but moving down to light heavyweight, we have Anthony Yarde. This dude looks like a bodybuilder. He only had 12 amateur fights before becoming a professional, and in just 15 fights, 14 wins by way of knockout. He's won the WBO European light heavyweight title and the WBO Intercontinental light heavyweight title. He's already got a top 3 world ranking by the WBO. Also landed in the top 10 of the transnational boxing ratings. So far, his 2 biggest wins come from Nikolai Sikoloka, who has a 32-4-1 record. Yarde stopped him in the 4th round. This last February, he fought Tony Aberlin, who came into that bout with a 26-9-2 record, and Yarde stopped him in the 7th round. He's definitely one to look out for in a loaded light heavyweight division with the likes of Sergey Kolev, Demetrius Bivol, Adonis Stevenson, and Badou Jack. Next, let's head down some weight classes down to boxing's glamour division, the welterweight. Right now, there's a lot of hype for the sensation from the Dominican Republic, Carlos Adames, who comes at us with a 14-0 record, 11 by knockout. He's won numerous World Youth Championships in the amateurs, and as a pro, he's already beaten a former world champion and former IBF junior middleweight champion Carlos Molina. Adames stopped Molina in the 11th round. Another man that beat Molina just this last March in only his 6th fight is the UK sensation Josh Kelly. Kelly wasn't able to stop Molina, but it's still a big feat seeing that he was only 5 professional bouts going into that fight compared to a guy that had 38. Kelly will fight later on this month, June 16th, when he faces Chris George, who comes in with a professional record of 14-1. Now let's move up a division to junior middleweight, where hard-punching Mexican Jaime Munguia won the WBO title this last May against Saddam Ali. The ironic thing about that win was Munguia was in the running to face Triple G a week earlier that month, but was denied by the Nevada Athletic State Commission, claiming that he was not a worthy opponent, despite the fact that he was Ring Magazine's Prospect of the Year. When WBO #1 contender Liam Smith had to back out of his bout with Saddam Ali due to illness, Jaime Munguia stepped in, and he destroyed the much smaller Ali in 4 rounds. Speaking of destroyer, not only is this guy a destroyer, but he's also known as the Monster, Naoya Inoue. He comes at us with 16 wins, 14 by knockout, and he's already won 3 titles in 3 weight classes. The only guy to do it in less fights is Vasyl Lomachenko. Let me give you an idea of just how badass the Monster is. He beat Ryogashi Taguchi, who was 18-1-1 at the time, in just his 4th fight. He then went on in only his 6th fight and stopped WBC World Light Flyweight Champion Adrian Hernandez, who was 29-1 at the time, by a 6th-round stoppage. Defended that title 1 time before moving up and defeating Omar Andreas Navarez for the WBO World super flyweight title. He knocked him out in just 2 rounds. That was only his 8th fight, while Navarez had over 45 fights.